So it's a creative pursuit of ideas. All right. So when we're identifying opportunities, it's all about searching for new ideas, and it revolves around answering the following questions: the what, the why, the when, and the how. So basically, what is that idea? What problem are we trying to solve? So in the case of Hashemi, um, the problem that she was trying to solve was in many ways her problem. Her problem was she really wanted some really good coffee that she could have, that she could order without making it herself. And she didn't have that kind of, to have access to a skinny latte in London. So what it was a solution to her personal problem, but in many ways it became a solution to other people's problems. So why are we doing it? Why are we coming out with a coffee shop? As I said, it's that benefit to other people to experience new coffee. Interesting to note that when she did it in London, they were tea drinkers. Not too many were coffee drinkers. And so it took her quite a while to get the ball running, to get people to actually experience good coffee. So she was one of those that helped introduce that coffee culture. I think that's partly why she was successful, because she came in at the right time, which is the when part. She came in at a time when Starbucks wasn't there yet. The cafes weren't there yet, and when she came in, she was a first mover, and she basically developed the market, and she helped Starbucks quite a lot if you think about it. So that when Starbucks came, people knew what Starbucks was all about the coffee, etc. The how is basically, how are we going to bring this idea into fruition? How do we actually create that coffee shop culture? So that's basically what creating ideas is all about. So it's not just the idea. Actually, the how part is, how are you going to make this a commercial venture? How do we create value for ourselves and create value for our customers? Okay, so ideas can come from a lot of places. It can be from external things outside of our country, outside of our company, but it could also come from within, something like our own experiences as customers. We might realize that we want something that's not available, and that's an example of an internal idea that came from within. But in the case of Hashemi, one idea that she went abroad, she went to New York, and she got that idea from there, and she basically just copied it. And I must say, it's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, if you see an opportunity that's being done in one country, and you go to another country and realize there's nothing like that here, ding, that is an amazing opportunity right there. So I hope that gives you guys ideas. So Cyril, both of us are from the Philippines. There's a lot of ideas you can get from the Philippines to bring that here.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but
And
it
yeah.
also goes the other way, which is you could have an idea in Australia and think about whether it is in the Philippines or not, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so when we're searching for new ideas, a lot of where we can get these ideas come from trends. Okay, trends that signal the shift in the way people are thinking. And a great example, of course, is the trend for people to work from home right now. It's going to be a major, it's already a major thing, but I think even when the virus is gone, I think you will see more people working from home. So if we see that happening, what kind of opportunities can we do? Can we discover that might become a business opportunity, knowing that people are working from home more often? All right. It can be as simple as a chair. Right now, I'm sitting on a chair that is not exactly very comfortable. I'm at home and I don't have my office chair. Is there a way that I can, create a better office chair, a home office chair? So, that's an example of an opportunity. So all of these insights constitute a source of potential ideas. Okay, so I think I've got some new participants who've just rocked up. Joga, Sadman, welcome. By the way, guys, this is a little bit different today. I've decided to do a live lecture, a live session, because I think I'm recording this. I certainly hope I'm recording it. Yes, I am. There's the recording sound.
Yes,
The reason why I'm recording this, I'm sorry, the reason why I'm doing live is I did a recording earlier, and there was no video. It was all audio, so I'll have to redo this whole thing. Sorry, did somebody want to say something? No? Okay, let's go on. All right, so what are these trends we're talking about, and where, how do we categorize these trends so that we can think about all these different things that are happening in our world right now? So the traditional way is to use what we call a pestle analysis. So I'm sure you've heard that term before in other units. PESTEL stands for the political and economic, socio-cultural, technology, physical environment, or the legal aspects of our current environment. And here we are just using the word trends to highlight that what we're really looking for in each of these categories is what is the current atmosphere like, and where is it headed? Where is our society headed? So societal trends, which is basically the demographics of society in terms of health. What's the in thing that's happening in the health industry or amongst people's health? For example, right in the old days, people used to think that to be healthy, you should cut out fat. So, stop eating fatty foods, bacon, what else? Milk used to be a culprit because it had fat. But the current trend is shifting. It's no longer about fat, it's more about carbohydrates. So you should reduce your sugar, you reduce your calories that are from white rice or from bread and things like that. And that is supposed to be a better approach to health. And that is a trend that's happening. So a lot of food companies are now going into reduced calorie, sugar-free, and all of that. Unlike before, when it used to be fat-free, less fat, 50% less fat, all of that. That's going out of style, and it's going into another direction. So is there an opportunity out there? That's up to you guys to try to discover. Looking at my notes now. Okay, another societal trend I can think of course, is related to this virus situation. So a lot of people are looking for exercises or fitness regimens that they can do from their home. They can't go out. Imagine if you're a physical fitness trainer, and they've now banned people from doing these boot camp in the park. So obviously you need to offer your services online and try to create some value and try to get value out of that. In other words, how do you profit from this online craze? Technological trends, certainly we all know what's happening. The in thing now is online this, online that, online Zoom. But the other thing is collaborative software. So collaboration is a big technological trend. And how do we collaborate using technology? So an example of that is Zoom, which is what we're on right now. But another example would be Google Documents, wherein you can create a document on on Google, and then share this document with your group mates, and you can actually be working on this document together at the same time, and you can see in real time that the changes to this document are happening as you're working on that document. So it's a perfect tool when you're doing an assignment with your group mate. Okay, so that's an example of a tech trend. Is there an opportunity to use that type of collaboration for another industry, perhaps, or to solve a problem? I'll give you one example. I hope you can see that. So this is Microsoft To Do. Okay, that's my menu for today, by the way. And then I've got my groceries. Do you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yes, yes.
this is just my to-do list. This is what I'm supposed to get. I think maybe Cyril, you might see a chuete there. I'm supposed to buy a chuete.
Yes, I do see that.
Okay, but I can put other stuff here. Like for example, I might say I need cooking oil. All right, so but the beauty about this to-do software, by the way, it's free. You can download this for your computer.
Which
But
one is
I've
that?
also, sorry?
Which one is that? Microsoft for do to do?
To Do, correct. There it is, Microsoft To Do. It's free.
Okay.
But the beauty about this is I can share this grocery list with my wife. So that the other day we were doing the grocery. She was in Kohl's in Westfield, and I was in Woolworths in another place. And then as we were doing the grocery, I was ticking off my list, but which would tick off whatever I'm buying is being ticked off as well on her list because it's a collaborative software. All right. So if I clicked on cooking oil like this, then she would see right in real time that I've already bought that cooking oil. She doesn't have to buy that from another grocery. That's an example of using collaborative software in another way. Do you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Other trends, economic trends, what's happening now? Of course, you've got a lot of economical stress or economics stress on the economy. Many wage earners are having some trouble. They've got a lot of casual employees have lost their jobs. I'm hoping none of you have lost your jobs, but
Lost already.
you lost it.
Yep.
All right, I'm really sorry, but anyway, that's really a fact of life. But is there a way that we could come up with an opportunity or use this situation and come out with a solution to many people who are now looking for jobs? There are many farmers, for example, that I've heard that they're looking for people because what happened is they used to rely on fruit pickers to go to their farms and pick the fruit, and usually these farmers are dependent on foreign workers. You know, the tourists that come in, the working tourists they're called, say from Germany or whatever. They go there and pick fruit for these farmers. It's really easy. Well, it is physical work. It's hard, but it's easy to teach. It's easy to learn. So is there a way you can bring together farmers who are looking for casual employees and those who have lost their jobs? So, you know, if there's a way we could do that via a website, which connects casual employment, casual employers with casual employees, for example, like Seek.com, except this time we're using we're specializing in casual employment. You know, I think that's one example of how you can capitalize on the situation. Legal and political trends. A lot of government is offering a lot of help grants and subsidies to companies and to employees to try to offset this what's happening now. Unfortunately, most of these subsidies are being offered only to Australian citizens. But if that could be a opportunity right there, because it's very confusing when you go to the government websites to figure out, what am I entitled to, how much money am I entitled to, am I entitled to these subsidies? All of these questions can be easily answered with a very easy to read website. So if you can design a website and people will go to it and get their information in a more simpler fashion, then that's an opportunity. If you've ever been to a government website, you'll see how difficult it is to navigate your way through it. So that could be an opportunity that's waiting to happen. Really important trend, by the way, which is not mentioned in this slide, these ones anyway, is called the environment trends. So we know that there is climate change that's happening, and companies and governments are trying to reduce our carbon footprint. We're trying to reduce our power generation and power consumption. And the government is actually offering grants. They're offering such schemes where you can replace your light bulb with a more energy efficient light bulb, and they will replace this light bulb completely free. Now, you as a entrepreneur, you could actually, like this company here was started, and it's not a very big company, but they're offering, if you just sign up with them, that they will go to your residence and replace your light bulbs completely free, no expense on your part. As long as your light bulbs are the old CFL type bulbs or the incandescent type bulbs, they will replace it with LED lighting for free. And they'll get their revenue not from the homeowners, but they'll get it from the government. The government will actually pay them to do this service. So that's a good example of government regulations or government initiatives where entrepreneurs can actually latch onto it and make money off it. All right, before I continue, are you guys still with me here, or have you fallen asleep?
No, still here.
Still here?
Still
Very
here.
good. Very good. All right. So please, if you want to stop me at any point, I don't know how you can do it. Maybe open your video and wave your hands like this, and I'll try to stop my lecture. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So the source of new ideas is largely from your own experience, as we can see from those videos we watched. Michael Dell, the video about Hashemi's Coffee Republic. That's largely coming from her own experience and from her own work or education. All right, so be cognizant of whatever you're doing now. You could perhaps be using an idea and developing it further. In fact, if you think about it, most people, that's how they start their business. If I know nothing about restaurants, I don't think I can go and say, I think I'll create a restaurant. However, if I am very passionate about food and I'm very passionate about cooking, then there's a chance I could make that into a business idea. I think Vipul here is a chef. So obviously his ideas might actually come from his current occupation. Correct, Vipul? Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay, and innovative ideas can actually come from very unexpected places or unexpected occurrences. The 9/11 terrorist attack, you might say it's a terrible tragedy, but some opportunities arose from that. So, for example, security. Many companies are after tighter security. And you could be an entrepreneur capitalizing on those opportunities. An example also is something that used to be impossible and people couldn't imagine, that you could have a package delivered overnight. Now, in fact, in some cases here in Melbourne, you can order something online and have that product delivered to you on the same day. Okay, so it might seem impossible, but that's where an idea comes from. The first question you ask yourself, it's impossible, but is it possible for us to turn that around and it become an actual reality that we can deliver something as quickly as that? So Federal Express, FedEx, in other words, they started as a package delivery company, but they were one of the first to visualize that they can actually deliver something. If they're very, very efficient, they can deliver something overnight, even within America, if it's very far apart, even if it's California to New York. So sugar-free products come from the fact that a lot of people, again, are trying to reduce their calorie intake, trying to lose weight, perhaps. People who might be sick and can't take as much coffee because it increases their heart rate or something like that. Then can you offer a caffeine-free coffee? And of course, microwave ovens stem from the fact that people were rushed for time. They didn't have enough time to prepare their foods. It would take hours to defrost a frozen piece of meat, where if you microwave oven, you can zap it, and within minutes you can prepare it. Healthcare industry, an example of an industry that's changing. Healthcare used to be exclusively done in hospitals and doctors' offices. Now you can actually call to get a doctor to come to you. I'm not sure if that's going to happen now, but with the virus and all. But there are some businesses that are offering that the doctor will come and see you at home, and really you can charge that to your Medicare. It doesn't really entail additional cost. So just remember that creative thinking, if you're an entrepreneur and you're building a business, it's not just about creative thinking. You need to blend your imagination with a very logical process. So they say imagination comes from the right brain and logical process comes from the left brain. Okay, it comes from a very organized way of thinking. So being an entrepreneur means you need to use those talents, both your left and your right brain thinking. So entrepreneurs develop an ability to see, recognize, and create opportunity where others find only problems. Okay, so when you've got a problem, it depends on what kind of a person you are. You might be an adapter or you could be an innovator. You approach things in a very different manner. And I would say an adapter is a person who thinks very logically. They're very organized. While in an innovator is more of a creative kind of person. You relies more on his right brain. If you maybe you're a musician and you're more a right brain person. If you're a musician, they say. If you're an adapter, then you're more of a very methodical type of person. Perhaps a stereotype, of course, would be an accountant, might be more of a left brain thinker, and a marketer would be more of a right brain thinker. That's not always the case, by the way. I don't want to stereotype, but that's usually what people say. All right, so what is an adapter? A person who employs a very disciplined and precise methodical approach. He likes to solve problems rather than finding problems. So he's not the kind of person who looks for a problem. He'd rather just solve whatever is on his plate right now. He attempts to refine whatever current practices people are doing. So whatever current practice he's doing, he will try to refine that. tends to be more purpose-oriented, capable of extended detailed work, and is sensitive to group cohesion and cooperation. In other words, when he's in a group, he wants to make sure that everybody's having a good time and everybody's learning and everybody's what do you call this, getting something out of that group. The innovator, on the other hand, you can see here, is very creative. He discovers problems and avenues for solutions. He looks for problems. He even if there's no problem, he'll say, what if, what if? He questions basic assumptions. He's not really very focused on how things are done. He's more interested in the end or the goal. He doesn't like routine work. He likes something different every time. And when he works in a group, he has no need for consensus. In other words, he oftentimes can be quite insensitive to the other people's ideas. It's all about basically, if it's a good idea, and he's going to push for it. He doesn't need anybody to say it's a good idea or it's a bad idea. So these are two different persons, perhaps. We could have facets or characteristics of each one, but generally we might be more leaning to one side or the other. In other words, some people are more right brain thinkers, and some people are more left brain thinkers. But whatever it is, the best way to try to solve a problem is to use both. Try to develop your left brain thinking and also your right brain thinking. So in other words, try to use both sides of the brain. And later on, we're going to do an exercise that helps us develop these multiple brain thinking approaches. So if you really feel that you're more of a left brain and you can't seem to use your right brain, then the best solution is to find someone, another person, and that could be your partner, and you work together. If hopefully he is an innovator and you are an adapter, and you work well together. So let's go on. Okay, the nature of the creative process. How do we develop creative ideas? The first phase would be the background on knowledge accumulation. So in other words, this is where we just do a lot of research. Okay, we gather information. We look at the competitors. We look at our own knowledge, and we look outside. We Google things and try to find out, okay, how does this work? Can this be an idea? Oftentimes, we already have a germ of an idea, and therefore, we're just gathering information about whether this works or not. So an example would be Hashemi. When she was looking at her coffee shop, she had an idea of starting a coffee shop in London, but she did a lot of research in New York. She went back there, she took pictures, etc., to gather all of this information. And then there's an incubation process. So in other words, at that point, you just try to process all that information that you've gathered, and you try to see, okay, which one is more important than the other. By the way, this is where a lot of the creation process can take a long time. All right. So, in fact, this is where people say you should sleep on it. Okay, have a nap. Don't worry too much about the ideas that you've gathered. Just do your own thing on a daily basis. Maybe go to work, and then maybe the idea will come to you later on. And oftentimes, that's exactly what happens in phase 3. You suddenly have a solid idea, and this solid idea can come to you at any point. And that stems again from the incubation process, because that's the incubation is where the ideas develop before it becomes a firm solution that you've come up with. Once you've come up with that solution, the next step will be evaluating and implementing that solution or that idea, the business idea. This is where you can ask your friends what they think about your idea. This is where you ask yourself the what ifs. Does my idea still hold water? If let's say some mistake happens, what are the risks involved? So in fact, in your assignment, this is one of the questions. What are the risks that can make your business or your business idea fail? So that's part of this evaluation and implementation phase. All right, so at this point, we're going to try to develop our own creativity, and we're going to try to do a online activity if you can follow. So we will do three things today. First is try to develop our relationship recognition, how we look at different or unorthodox relationships among the elements and the people around you. So in other words, trying to discover, are there any relationships between items? For example, I don't know, I've got a light here. If I can show that to you, a desk light, a lamp. And then say, the table. The table I'm working on, is there a relationship between these two items? Well, the light actually sits on a table, and I don't have a floor light. I have it on my desk. So I guess the table helps the prop up the light, this desk light that I have. I could mention a relationship between what we're doing now, which is a online video, and I can talk about how that light, which I just showed you, how that helps the video. It brightens up the room a little bit, so I don't look very dark. So that's what I mean by asking ourselves, what's the relationship between two items? So in fact, we'll start that now. If you guys can go to Moodle. Hold on for a moment. Okay, that's probably working well. Okay. So if you guys can please open Moodle, go to session 1.1 or April 2, this one, that folder. Scroll down. We've taken all of these videos up already. So look at this one, practice quiz, session 1.2. And if you can please click on that on your computers and start the quiz. Okay. Now, don't worry, this quiz is not graded. It's simply an exercise. Okay. I want you guys to start answering the questions here. So the first question only, which is discuss the relationship of the following items. You have the sun, batteries, and machines. So in other words, explain the possible ways that these three items can have a relationship with one another. Discuss how each item can complement the other. So can the sun improve batteries?
Yeah.
Can batteries improve the sun?
No.
Okay, don't tell me what the answer is. Write it down, okay? I want all of you to be writing something down so I know whether you are actually awake or not. I was saying the hemispheres of your brain, right brain helps us understand analogies and imagine things. So right brain is about imagination and creativity. Left brain is about logic. L stands for logic. And here are some of those skills that come from particular hemispheres of your brain. The verbal side of it, the analytical side, abstract, rational, logical, and linear. All of that comes from the left brain. And from the right brain comes things like the nonverbal, the synthesis, the analogies, the intuitive, and the imaginative. So things like appreciating art, appreciating attractive people, beauty, all of that will come from the right side of our brains. Okay, you can see that PowerPoint screen, right?
Yes.
You can?
Yep.
I hope so. So please turn to question number 3. You should see that in front of you now. Enumerate ways that you can persuade a person to invest in your new business venture. So in other words, imagine that you have a business idea, and you're trying, you find a person, maybe he's a rich uncle or some rich guy, and he's looking for ways to invest his money. And so you're trying to convince him that he should give that money to you so you can do a business. Okay? So what are the ideas that you could use to persuade him? All right? Think about a left brain idea and think about a right brain idea. And please divide that. So you could look at the left brain and say, I will show the amount of money an investor can earn from my business. That's a good example because it's very logical. Of course, the investor will want to earn, if he puts in an amount of money, he wants a certain return on investment. So that's a very logical, a very left brain way of thinking. So I can do that. But can you think of a right brain method as well on how you can convince him to invest? Okay, so an example would be, well, I'll show him a beautiful picture of a beautiful product. Okay, my product, and look at how colorful it is. And maybe he'll get attracted to it, and maybe he'll plunk down some money based on that. Obviously, one works with the other. You don't necessarily just have a left brain idea. You should have a right brain idea as well and put them together. All right, but try to divide your ideas in terms of left and in terms of right brain thinking. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, go ahead and start number 3. That's the last question.
Yeah, back.
Anybody want to share with me just a couple of things? Share with the group, basically their left brain idea about convincing an investor.
I will show business plan.
Business plan. Okay, excellent. And what would the business plan have that is very left brain?
Yep.
What would it have?
Financial plan,
Okay.
marketing plan,
Mm-hmm.
and what is
The-
my goal, something like that.
Very good. So very a goal and basically steps on how we're going to do the plan, implement the plan. Correct?
Sir,
Was just to convince him is it will be highly beneficial for you to invest in our venture as there is practically a void in the market for our product. So it's just typical sales talk, essentially. And based on
Very
our
good.
market research, being a startup business, we're expecting great revenues coupled with the right marketing strategy.
Good. Good. Okay. How about right brain? This is a little bit difficult, right? It's not something that you will usually see, but it is something that we need to do anyway, which is use a right brain idea to try to convince someone to invest.
The vision of the whole idea, the whole business, like where it can go, the expansion possibilities.
That's good. Yeah. Any other ideas?
I wrote down our product is masterfully crafted and that it's not just pleasing to the eyes, but also very stylish and user friendly. So it's
Okay,
like
so style.
picture,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Giving him a picture in his mind, essentially.
Yeah.
Contribution to the society the idea like will make. Like if there is
Sadman, that's a really insightful. That's very good. Sadman, I mean, how it contributes to society.
to the society, yeah.
Yeah, because that's a feeling, isn't it? I mean, if
Yeah,
you tell
like
a
you feel good
person
about
that you
yourself.
can be part of a venture that helps other people, that improves society, you can argue that that's something like very feeling oriented and very right brain, rather than a very logical. I want to make money, and this will make you money. But if you appeal to this sense of responsibility, this sense of helping other people, that's like a feeling, and that is
Feeling,
very
yeah.
right brain. Yeah, very
Yeah.
good. That's an excellent
you.
idea.
Thank you.
All right, so I think enough examples, but I think you guys get the idea, which is great. Now,
The challenge will be when you're developing your business plan, how do you incorporate the logical and the aesthetic? So remember that your business plan, you're trying to convince someone at the end of the day. Maybe you're convincing yourself. But usually a business plan is used to convince other people to invest. And therefore your business plan has to have logical things into it, but it also has a certain like a beauty to it, an aesthetic to it, something that appeals to people's right brain. For example, a purpose or a feeling of being part of a community, of helping others, or maybe it's really just a beautiful product to have, and it might appeal to a person's sense of, yeah, I want to be part of this venture, even if I'm not going to make money out of it. But if I see that it's something that I can be proud of, then I'll support it. So that's very right brain thinking as well. Okay, so that's great exercise. We'll go on with this topic. Really is about, okay, so we're obviously we need to be creative ourselves, but the other thing is, if we're starting a business and we're hiring people, and maybe we have business partners that are with us to try to develop this business, how do we make sure that we create this climate wherein everyone in the business is creative? So how do we get people's creative juices to flow? Right. So here are some suggestions. In fact, there are a lot of suggestions here. Take some time for that to read off. Okay. What I've done is, I'm not going to explain everything. So I just put in bold the ones that I think are worthwhile talking about, and they're kind of important in my view. So the first one is a trustful management that does not over control employees. So if you're a manager and you're trying to create this creative climate, obviously you've got to give them a little leeway. You can't control them. You cannot say, okay, I want you to have a creative idea by 3 o'clock, or you can say, I want 2.5 ideas. I don't want 30. I don't want 1. I want 2.5 or something like that. You can't be that controlling, and you can't force people to do things. And remember that creativity takes time. It's not as simple as setting a deadline and then making things happen. So trust your employees and don't control them. Okay, give them some leeway. If they tell you, I work from home, I'm more creative at home, you should allow that. You should allow them to work from home, even if there's no virus. Because if they say that they're more creative at home, then give them that leeway. Considerable contact and communication with outsiders. So in other words, going outside of your company for ideas, getting people to go abroad and study what's happening in other places to see whether they can get ideas and bring it back to your company. Have little fear of negative consequences for making a mistake. In other words, don't get angry at employees when they make mistakes, because you want them to take risks. You want to encourage them to make mistakes so that they can learn from it, number one. Because the best way to learn is oftentimes trial and error. Okay, so the best way to learn a new software is just go ahead and try numerous things. And that basically, it's okay for you to make a mistake. It's okay for your employees to make a mistake. Use techniques that encourage ideas, including suggestion systems and brainstorming. So one technique that we've just used is that right and left brain technique that can inspire people or get their creative juices flowing. So do that sort of technique with your employees or with your partners, or do a brainstorming. So brainstorming is actually a process. And what it entails is making sure that people are able to express their ideas without fear of being judged or without fear of being said, oh, that's a stupid idea. So the brainstorming process usually begins with people gathered in a circle,
and they share these ideas. But the key thing is when a person is sharing his idea, you can't tell him, oh, that's a bad idea, or that's a good idea. Yeah, don't say anything. Just let that person finish and explain his idea, so that all of his ideas will come out. One way some companies do it is when they share, they actually share that by writing on a piece of paper and then submitting the piece of paper, so that nobody can interrupt while you're writing your idea on a piece of paper. So think about those techniques and how you could apply that in your own situation. Okay, so remember that at the end of the day, innovation is a product of creativity. So in other words, you don't creativity in itself does not create businesses. Okay, you need a combination of creativity to create true innovation. So I would describe innovation as something that that is sustainable. So something that actually your company can use towards the future. So a creative idea is something that's just an idea that may or may not come true. So innovation is the process by which entrepreneurs convert opportunities, ideas, into marketable solutions. So a creative idea remains just an idea unless it's turned into a true innovation. So innovation is a combination of the vision to create a good idea and the perseverance and dedication to remain with the concept through implementation. So I think this was what that woman was saying yesterday when she said persevere, and don't give up, because if your vision, if you work on that vision time and again and keep pushing it with perseverance, then that idea becomes a real venture. So innovation is the key function in the process, this whole entrepreneurial process, and it's in fact a specific function of entrepreneurship. So the definition nowadays of entrepreneurship simply is not starting a small business, but it is more than that. It is actually innovation, creating some innovative venture. Okay, some innovations that have borne fruit and basically become successful. The airplane, which is really what we call an invention, the light bulb, the telephone, all of those are dramatic creations, and they are true inventions. But I must say nowadays, there aren't that many inventions. Many of these are innovations that are more like extensions. They are an idea that builds from another idea. So an extension, a good example of that is Ray Kroc when he started McDonald's. About how he started. Well, actually, he didn't start McDonald's. He just joined it midway, and he saw this idea that was developed by these two brothers, and he took it over and he made it a huge business. So he had it. McDonald's was already existing when he came around to it. And as a matter of fact, if you think about it, hamburger restaurants have always been around. Right? There's so many hamburger restaurants, even before McDonald's came in. But what he did was he revolutionized it. He made it a quick service concept. He introduced consistency, in other words, in the product, and he revolutionized it in terms of delivering the product in minutes. Okay, as opposed to it could take them, half an hour before they get their food, etc. And sometimes the hamburgers would not be exactly the same. So he got into that thought, which he built from an existing idea. Sorry, did somebody want to say something?
He branded the whole thing.
He what?
He branded the idea.
Yes, in effect, he branded it. So he created this McDonald's as a brand, and he made it synonymous with, quick service, cleanliness, and consistency. Yeah. Anyway, Duplication. So Walmart, if you think about it, is not a real invention. They just took this idea of department stores and expanded it, and it became huge. So a gigantic department store. That's what Walmart would be, similar to Costco here in Australia. Walmart's not here in Australia, but again, Costco, when you enter, it's a big warehouse with departments. So again, a giant department store. That's the concept. And it's really just a duplication with
That's an
some minor
American company as
innovations.
well, isn't it?
Beg your pardon?
That's an American company as well, isn't it?
Walmart is an
Costco?
American company,
Costco?
probably second or third biggest company in the world.
Is Costco American as well?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But Walmart is much bigger. I think they have close to 500,000 employees. It's huge. Anyway, another idea is synthesis, or combining existing concepts and factors into a new formulation or new use. So the iPhone, a lot of people think that that's an invention, but actually it's just an amalgamation of different inventions brought together. Okay, so the smartphone that we're using now, if you think about it, the touch screen, that was not really invented by Apple. They found an idea from another person, incorporated it into the iPhone. What else? What other ideas did come in? So he also brought this idea of music and bringing it into a phone. So it's basically bringing ideas together and using technology in a very good way. All right. So many of these inventions were not actually invented by who you think invented it. So major misconceptions of innovation. So people think innovation is about these things. Innovation is planned and predictable. That's actually not right. Okay. Innovation is often unplanned and chaotic, and it just happens. It could be a reaction, and it's difficult to actually plan for innovation. We cannot say, tomorrow we're going to come up with a new idea. It's very difficult for us to say that. Okay. The other thing is technical specifications must be thoroughly prepared before we can innovate. Now, that's also not true. Again, a lot of ideas come from no technical specifications. It's just an idea in the head of someone. Okay, so Steve Jobs, for example, when he was looking at the first few iPads or iPhones, and looking at the touch screen, he was thinking, he wasn't thinking about technical specs. All he wanted was a particular feel of how you would use it. Using your finger. The old touch screens would use a pen. I don't have a pen with me here, but the old smartphones had something you have to write with. But he was the first who said, no, let's use a finger. So, and that's not from technical specs. So innovation relies on dreams and blue sky ideas. Well, not all the time. A lot of innovation comes from very practical solutions to or existing problems. Give you an idea, when NASA was trying to design a ball pen that astronauts could use in space, so they came up with this really, $1 million ball pen, because the problem with a ball pen is how can it work if there's no gravity, right? If you're up in space, how will it write? So they came up, they paid a lot of money for these people to come up with these brilliant ideas of pressure coming in, and so that you could use the pen in space. Guess what the Russians did? Very innovative solution. Anyone? Instead of developing a multi-million-dollar ball pen, what did the Russians do for their cosmonauts?
Use pencils.
Correct. They used a pencil. So very, very practical, but a very cheap solution. It works. Big projects will develop better innovations than smaller ones. Not all the time. Some big projects actually In fact, some people say the smaller the team, the better. So you get better ideas from a small, maybe 5 people working together than 50 people working together. So think about that for a moment. Technology is the driving force of innovation success. Again, not all the time. A perfect example would be the pencil and the ball pen, right? So very technological solution, but a non-technological solution can actually be a better solution, a better innovation if you think about it. So I think that's the last slide for today's mini lecture. And just hold on for a moment. I may have other things to take up. Let me just stop the share for a second.